Good afternoon and welcome to a webinar from Linköping University. We're going to learn more about mechanical engineering today, and I'm here with Mikael and Sai.
Yeah.
I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. My name is Therese and I'm a communications officer, and I'll be your moderator through this conversation. Before we move on, just a few general kind of things about this webinar. We're recording the first half. We're going to be talking for about 20 to 30 minutes, and this part will be recorded and we're going to put that on our website. You can ask us questions. These questions we're going to answer after our conversation, so in about 20 minutes or half an hour. And that part of the webinar will not be published on our website. But do ask us questions. Use the Q&A section. That's where we'll be looking and answering your questions later on. There's also a chat function. Pop in, say hello, where you're from. You can talk to each other there, but that's not where we'll be looking when we answer your questions later. If you do have questions later on, just hit reply to any of the emails that you've had from us lately or in the past, and we'll get back to you shortly. Without further ado, I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. Mikael, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. My name is Mikael Axén, and I'm a senior lecturer at Linköping University, and I'm also the program director for the master program in mechanical engineering.
Thank you. Sai?
Hello, my name is Sai Sridhar. I am from India, Maharashtra if you may. I am studying mechanical engineering, the same program. And I am a second year master student in Linköping University.
Thank you. This is really good. We're going to get both the kind of the lecturer perspective and the student perspective. So you're going to get a bit of a kind of both sides of the fence view of the program. Mikael, tell us a bit more about the program. I mean, why do we offer it, and you know, why do we feel that there is a need for this program?
Yes, so I think all around the world we have mechanical engineering programs. So this master program is offered to those who have a bachelor from somewhere else. It could be from Linköping, any other part in Sweden, or all around the world. So this program is for you who want deeper knowledge within a few different areas of mechanical engineering, and we will come back to that later, which areas we have. So yeah, those of you who have a bachelor and want to know more.
I want to know more about mechanical engineering. How come you chose? I mean, you're from India, so far away, and so how come you chose Sweden and Linköping University?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because Linköping University in particular, I saw that the course catalog that was available to a master student was pretty holistic. So you could either choose from, if you want to specialize, let's say in manufacturing, you could go with manufacturing courses, or let's say if you wanted to choose more a design-centric approach, you could go with that. So it basically balances out you as a complete engineer, and that really is important, I think, in today's world. And why Sweden in particular? Because I have been always fascinated by Swedish companies in general, because when I was living in Pune, there were a street just with Swedish companies, and I did my bachelor thesis with Sandvik Rock and Mining Technologies.
Okay.
So yeah, that is how I felt like Sweden is the country I want to go.
Okay, and you made it here.
Yeah.
Let's learn a little bit more about the actual program. We have a slide that we're going to put on the screen, and I thought we'll talk around this, because I think this is where you really see how we're different and what sets us apart, and compare it to someone else. These pretty much all our master's programs, this included, is a 2-year program. So
Yes.
it's 4 semesters. So let's start with the first semester. That's mandatory. Everybody has to do this. So what courses do we offer?
Yeah, exactly. So the first semester we offer 5 mandatory courses. So we start with fluid power systems and product development. So it's to get a basis within hydraulics and also product development. And then we continue with 3 more courses in the second half of the first semester. Then we have introduction to computational mechanics. We have engineering materials, deformation and fracture. And then you can choose between either continuum mechanics or hydraulic servo systems.
And does it matter which one you choose? I mean, will that have an impact on what you can do for the second and third semesters?
Yeah, exactly. So depending on in semester 2 and 3, you are supposed to choose one of the following 5 specialization areas. So we have applied mechanics, engineering, design and product development, engineering materials, mechatronics and manufacturing engineering. So if you want to go towards applied mechanics, then in the first semester you should choose continuing mechanics. If you want to go towards mechatronics, then you should choose hydraulic servo systems. And for the rest of the 3, you can choose whichever.
Okay. And which one, I mean, how did you feel your first semester? Because you're in your second year now.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're in your third semester.
Yeah.
So looking back to your first semester, what did you think? Did you also start with fluid power systems? And
Yeah, we had like the fluid power systems and product development as a mandatory courses in the first semester, first period. There is a period system. Maybe we can tell about it later.
Definitely. I wanted to go back to that.
Yeah.
So you have.
So
So not only are there separate semesters, there are
Yeah.
separate periods within the semesters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fluid power systems, it's about basic hydraulics in general. So you have like designing a crane, so to speak, the hydraulics circuits of a crane, and just to give an idea. And then for product development, you come across various product development methodologies which are employed in industry and how you can use them to get a better product in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is the first section or part of the. So how long is this first part 1 of semester 1?
Yeah, exactly. So typically each semester is 20 weeks and we divide them into 10-week slots. So the first 10 weeks, then you take 2 courses, which you have mentioned.
And they're in parallel, so you have, at the same time?
Exactly, you take both at the same time.
Okay.
And then in the second half of the autumn, you take the 3 remaining courses in parallel.
Okay. So how are do you have kind of end of semester, end of year exams, or is each block examined after the end of the block?
So each course is examined after the period.
Okay.
So in October, mid-October, you examine the first 2 courses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just had an exam period?
Well, I had exam period, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was intense, but yeah,
Yeah.
now it's over.
So what are the exams like? Are they traditional kind of exams where you sit in a big lecture hall, or are they more projects that you submit, or?
I think it varies depending on which course you have chosen. Like for instance, at least with my first semester, I had courses which had the proper written exams. But later on now in my third semester, I have more courses which are project oriented. Because like you will be graded based on the quality of work you have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is also something I've heard from other students. So I assume for the start of the whole program, if you have more exam-based assessment, it's individual. So you kind of do your own thing. But for the project, it's a lot of teamwork.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of teamwork.
Yeah.
Like we work in the groups of, like for example, now we have a project course which is 12 credits, so spans the entire semester. We have like 5 people in our group and we are working on a test rig sponsored by Volvo. So yeah.
So was that new to you?
It was new. Yes, we learned a lot. Like I cannot overstate this when I say we learned a lot. Like for example, just CAN bus, integrating CAN bus and systems like that, which are very sophisticated if you see, but these are the systems that are being actually used in the industry.
Okay. And working in a group, actually taking kind of responsibility for each other. You together you're individually assessed, but you still kind of stand and fall with each other in a way.
Yep.
Was that also a new experience, or?
It was quite a new experience because back in India, at least, in general, the exam structure is more like you just written exams. So there is no group work as such. But here, I think group works are much more common across the courses, especially in the master's courses. And you need to have it because, well, in the industry, you're going to work in groups, not alone.
So, and that's kind of, is that specifically a very Swedish thing, I think, this focus on group work?
Exactly. So I think in the beginning of the program, it's kind of more focus on written exams. Yeah. And then the longer you get into the program, then there is a deeper focus on project works.
And we've heard the benefit is, you're prepared for what actually happens when you're out in industry, but are the challenges as well that you've noticed in in students who are not used
Yeah, I
to
mean,
it?
of course, all the time when people are working together, there can always be like dynamic issues. So of course there can be issues, but I mean, all students, they are motivated and they want to be here. They want to take the courses and they want to do good and show to the teachers and to their future employees that they can actually do good things. So I mean, usually it's no big issue.
So do a lot of these, we're going to come back to the slide in a minute, but I've just kind of, this thing about the project work, is that also you're doing yours with Volvo at the moment?
Yeah.
Is that common that you do this either with industry or with research groups here? How does it?
Yeah, we try to get the projects as authentic as possible. So I mean, the best case is that we have a company with a authentic case that the students should work on. And we have some students who are more into research afterwards, and then we try to have some kind of, maybe some of the projects are more research based, so you start your future research career while you take your master program, basically. So we try to have them both.
And do we have contacts, or are the students expected to find their own? Like for your project with Volvo, did you know of Volvo, or did you approach them, or how?
Not really, because for the project course, the specialization area or the faculty responsible have the projects listed out. So I think it's more like the industry approaches us, that we are going to explore so and so mechanisms or so and so machines. So for my project, at least, it was regarding electrification of construction equipment. So yeah, they had approached, I think, Linköping University.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, exactly. That's usually how it goes. But then for the master thesis, then you're expected to find your own.
Yeah, we should go back to the slide, because now I'm jumping ahead of it. Can we see the slide again? So the thesis is in the 4th semester, but 2nd and 3rd semester.
Exactly. So I think we have already talked about the project course, which is mandatory to all these 5 specializations. So
which one do you do, by the way?
Oh, I have the mechatronics specialization.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is that in this project course, you have taken a few courses before within the specialization, but in the project course, you should really apply the knowledge and skills from the courses you have taken earlier. So it's a kind of upsumming event for the courses, but also a preparation time for your thesis in the last semester.
Okay. So then you have 3 courses from the curriculum outside. So if you choose applied mechanics, you can still do foundations of AI and machine learning.
Exactly. So we have a long list of courses which you can take within the program, and then we have some of the courses listed for each specialization. But then, as you said, there are also lots of other courses which you can take depending on interest. So these 4, they are just examples.
I have taken one of those courses which you have written, which is there on the slide, autonomous vehicles planning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a nice course.
Was it good? Yeah.
It was a very nice course.
So, and that's not really related to mechatronics?
I mean, somewhat, but I think it's more towards computer science, so to speak.
Yeah, or electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good complement to
mechatronics. It's a good complement,
Yeah, exactly.
So these 5 specialization areas, they come with a kind of set of kind of mandatory courses within that specialization.
Yeah, mandatory and electable.
And elective that you mix.
Exactly.
And you also, and how many courses would you say is within each specialization area?
Yeah, so you should take in total 5 courses plus the project course within the specialization.
Okay.
And then you have 3 more, which could also be within specialization if you want to, but it could also be something else. So you could like complement your deeper knowledge skills with something else if you want to.
Okay. So you basically have, first semester you have 5 courses, and then you pretty much have 5, and then kind of 3 and 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of roughly the same.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
And then your 4th semester, which you'll be starting in January, is the thesis project, which spans, so if we go back to the slide, we can see it. So there you go, 30 ECTS, that means the entire semester, isn't it?
Yes.
So what do students do? Have you got yours planned already?
Yeah, I have gotten a thesis recently.
Mhm.
So from Epiroc,
Where will you do yours?
with Epiroc,
Okay.
Epiroc mining again.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a competitor to Sandvik, yes. But yeah, that the thesis will involve me working from January to May and then presenting my thesis finally around June, I guess.
Okay.
It depends.
And you found that yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's what students normally tend to do?
Exactly. So during their first 3 semesters, they have come across different companies in some project courses, and maybe the teachers have some contacts and so on, and there are places where the student can find a master thesis uploaded by the companies.
Yeah.
So there are different ways to find your thesis, but the students, they do it themselves.
They do it themselves.
Yes.
And did it take you long?
It actually was surprisingly quick for me, but it was it varies from person to person because for me it was more I wanted to go towards hydraulics, and that's why I had planned my courses beforehand as to what I will need, and But otherwise it can take more if someone doesn't find a thesis which they are interested in.
Okay, yeah. And if somebody doesn't find something, I mean, are we there? Can we help?
Yeah, of course. We usually have some, like you can do a part of a research project, for example, in-house at university. So we have, somehow it will be fixed, but we think it's the best thing is that the students, they find their own thesis within a company. I think then the students will learn more.
Yeah, so sounds like you had a really good plan where you actually tailored your courses towards what you wanted to do and then found your project.
Yeah.
What has been your experience of the program in terms of workload? I mean, you do 5 courses in parallel? Are you here, was it lectures, seminars, lab time? Were you here all day? Were you here once or twice a week?
It depends on the period, and like for example in one of the periods if I have like 3 courses, most often it is going to be intense and based on lab work as well. So for example, sometimes the lab work is after the regular college times, so after 8 to 5, then sometimes you have to just stay back till 9. But I mean you stay in the university and study either ways because the university has such nice facilities. Why not use them?
Oh, that's good. It's got a new student building.
Yeah,
do you spend any time there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a nice study environment. So the actual kind of the formal scheduled hours tends to be 8 till 5.
Yeah.
Is that every day? Is that?
No, I would say that it depends. I mean, if you have 3 courses in parallel, as an example, as you said, then maybe you're scheduled like half of the time, or a bit more maybe. So you have hours to do work outside scheduled areas as well, and you will need that.
Yeah, and
so it's more like there will be certain lecture slots in the day, but then there will be free time where you can self-study or work on assignment or a project.
Okay, so that's within, and then and on top of that, you sometimes have to go to the lab in the evening. Yeah. So has it been full on? I mean, we normally talk about 40 hours per week. Has that been a fair?
I think it's very fair to say that because, with the project course especially, you feel like in the first semester, you can say that the workload is a bit less, but like there are some of the basic courses, but that is the foundation. Afterwards, it really ramps up. So you will be experiencing advanced concepts which you have not studied before. And then there is a lot of project work, like group work as well. So most often I would say it requires a lot of time. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's important to kind of bear in mind that it's new and it's advanced and working part time. It's never really a good idea.
It's not really recommended. I would say if someone really wants to gain experience, industrial experience, they can try for internships in the summer because at that time the university isn't operating for 3 months or so. So that is a great time to get experience if you really want to in your relevant area. But otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend part-time working.
No, it is quite full on. I mean, especially if you have kind of scheduled hours during the day and then you find a lab slot in the evening. The other thing I'd like to kind of touch upon a bit is, so if you have the 10-week kind of first block, that means you get straight in there, don't you, in your first semester? Or do you get this kind of quiet getting to know everybody period? Or
there is NOLEPA, where the newcomers are welcomed by the seniors. So ESN and ESA, they are the student organizations. They conduct a lot of activities where you can get to know, but you have to be before the roll call for sure to attend those activities. Or after the roll call, it's just full blast. I mean, you have to get going from day one.
You have to get going straight away.
Yeah.
Because I think, if somebody are still finding their feet in the first few weeks, I think you missed quite an important foundation.
That is true.
Exactly. I mean, we really recommend the students to be here in the best of worlds before the roll call.
Yeah.
So everything is settled when the lectures and lessons and so on starts, because then you should have a full focus on your studies.
The roll call is also mandatory, so you have to be here for the roll call. That's an important part to mention. But I think there are a lot of activities taking place.
Yeah.
What has your experience been of student life?
Student life is very diverse, I would say, and especially like it's so much international community here. You have people from all over Europe and even Middle East, India, China, so on and so forth. And there are like student parties and so on and so forth. But I am not a party person really. But still I find some activities like Cycle Fest where you can just go and meet some students without really having to partake into loud music, I would say.
Where do you stay? I mean, where do you live? Do you live in a student corridor?
Yeah, I live in a student corridor and it's wonderful experience because I mean, it's a hit or miss, yes, but in my case, it has been wonderful. We are like 8 people living together and sharing a kitchen and a living room.
Okay. So you share a kitchen, you share a living room, but you have your own bedroom and your own bathroom.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. It's
I can. You don't have to fight anybody for a shower.
Yeah.
You have your own. Yeah. I think, are you in the area near campus?
Yeah. Ritzale is the place.
Yeah.
Where I live.
It's where a lot of. I think this is within cycling distance. What does it take? 10 minutes to cycle?
I think 5 minutes.
5 minutes. You're quicker.
It depends on how optimized your route is, so to speak.
Yeah.
How close you are.
For accommodation, it's that's actually a good. If you're thinking about coming here, you should sign up for accommodation now, really, because you earn 1 point per day that you're queuing, or you're kind of virtually queuing. That's for studentbostäder. Are they the ones you're staying with?
No, not
you're
really.
Heimstaden?
Yes,
yeah.
I am with Heimstaden.
There's 2 companies, and one of them Studentbostäder. Well, 2 main companies. Studentbostäder are very strict with their points. Heimstaden, they open a bit earlier and actually allocate. But have a look on our accommodation pages. But the one thing I can advise is get in the queue even if you're just thinking about coming here, because it's not gonna do any harm and it doesn't cost anything. But I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying corridor life, because I think
it's wonderful because we get together, prepare food, and it's so many different nationalities. Get to know a lot of their perspectives as well.
I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of who are we looking for? I mean, who's the kind of the perfect match for this program? What kind of academic background or skill set are we looking for?
So we are looking for students who have their bachelor within mechanical engineering or similar, but close to mechanical engineering. Of course, it's good if you have a kind of good knowledge in the English language, both written and especially writing. And you should, of course, be like motivated and prepared to really study hard and do your at least 40 hours a week.
So this is not a 2-year long kind of nice vacation.
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be a vacation for sure.
No, yeah. What would you say? I mean, what kind of, the mindset skills? I mean, do you agree? What kind of person?
I would say motivation is the most important thing. You have to be really driven because no one is going to get behind you to get stuff done. But it's more like your self-interest. You have to have the interest to pursue it, because if it is challenging, it's your own motivation that pulls you up from the bed every morning to get it done. Otherwise, it's quite difficult, I think.
How do you get out of bed? Because this is the question everybody asks when it starts getting dark and cold, and everybody thinks Sweden is a lot worse than it is. Maybe it is, depending on where you come from. But how do you, when it starts getting dark outside, and you have to be here, 8 for some lectures?
Yeah, so in general, like towards the winter, it starts getting dark about 4:30, so 4:30ish something. But if you have to, if you have a lecture at 8:15, let's say, then I tend to get up like 6:30, 7, something in between, and then prepare something for the day, and then
just have a schedule,
Yep.
a proper schedule, and kind of written
and breakfast for sure.
And breakfast, yeah. Don't forget breakfast.
Very important.
Yes. We're going to move on to questions in a minute. I just, from you, what do you wish you had known? So if you can, go back and talk to Sai from 2 years ago, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that apply early. Apply for the permit card very early, as soon as possible. Get your finances in order as soon as possible, because logistical delays are a thing. We generally tend to overlook that. And I mean, India, in my case at least, India to Sweden was pretty far.
Yeah.
So that would be my number one recommendation.
Yeah. So get things done early, and the application period is open now until I believe it's the 16th of January next year. It's middle of January. So the sooner you apply, the sooner the admissions unit can also see if you've missed something. You won't get a result. You won't get a result until end of March next year. But you can still, the sooner you do it, and by the 1st of February, that's the deadline for your kind of supplementary papers, so the actual transcript and so on. And the other thing I'd like to mention is, as you mentioned, the background is, if you've done courses with kind of vague names, attach a syllabus. I think that helps to see that you match the specific requirements, because sometimes I think students have courses that say, I don't know, maths, whatever, and we might need specific parts of that math. So, attach a syllabus just to make it easier for us to understand your application. What advice would you give students applying?
I think if you are into mechanical engineering, want to know more about one of these 5 specialization areas, and you are really motivated, then apply.
Then go for it.
Yes.
Go for it. Yeah?
It will be worth it.
Sorry?
It will be worth it for sure.
Oh, I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you're finding it worth, having travelled here and being here. Before we move on to the questions, just a quick recap of what I just said. Have a look at the program pages. Make sure that you actually understand the specific requirements. I think this is important, and get all you plan out your application so that you have a language test if you need one, for example. Go to universityadmissions.sc. There's country-specific information, so you see what's necessary for your country. If you're from Germany, for example, you might not need to do a language test if you have done English at a certain level. Same thing India, if you've done a 4-year engineering degree, you'll be exempt. But you need to have a look for this country-specific information. So you need the language test, you need to upload, you either need to pay your application fee, or you need to prove that you are a non-fee payer, which means a European citizen. And you need to do this by 1st of February. So upload your passport, especially if you're an European applicant. This tends to be missed because they think, well, we're European, so, but we won't know that unless you upload your passport. And then transcript and syllabus. And this is all, the online deadline is 16th of January, and the documentation is 1st of February. So those were the kind of, the general, this is the same for all our programs. If you want more information, have a look at liu.se/education. Have a look at our Instagram account. So Linköping University on Instagram is run by our students. So our students have a week each where they show you their lives. So you get a lot of views of corridor life, for example, or challenges. The blog, International Program Students at LIU, which is the longest name we could have come up with, but you can have a look at our blog as well, because students, again, they've done all this, the stuff that you're talking about, apply on time, or do it early, make sure you have everything planned out. And I think this is good advice, that you thought about what you want to do and actually did your courses and your thesis in a certain way. But they have lots of advice, and you can ask them questions. I think that's it for the recorded part. So for those of you watching this recording, I'd like to say thank you very much. If you have questions, talk to us through our social media, or go to a program page and fill out the contact us form, and we'll get back to you really quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.